My name is Moses Powell. I've been studying jiu-jitsu for the last 20 years. I'm the master for Pender Visitashino. And at this particular time, I'm a senior master in the art of jiu-jitsu Te and jiu-jitsu Ryu.
.radio.net presents to you some of the most deadly jiu-jitsu masters in the world. Trained in the vicious urban inner-city street combat system of Sanuces Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, this art was created by the legendary Dr. Moses Powell, the father of American contemporary jiu-jitsu and the greatest martial artist of the 20th century. This network brings together 4 radio shows 4 nights a week, starting with Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Each one teach one, with the Pia Master himself, Grandmaster Urban Muhammad, and his protege, Professor Terrence Hale. Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Modern Combat Masters, hosted by the inheritor of GM Billy Davis Jiu-Jitsu, guru of his own Filipino system, and Sanuces Master, Grandmaster Daryl Sargent, and his co-host, Sifu Reseda de Jesus. Thursday nights at 9 p.m. is Professor Tom Curry's radio talk show. A Kenpo Master and Professor of Sanuces Ryu, 20 years law enforcement, senior tactical training instructor for intelligence retired, and author of the official Sanuces Ryu Jiu-Jitsu testing and training curriculum. And Friday nights at 8 p.m. is Making the Connection, hosted by the president of DocRadio.net, Grandmaster in the art of Sanuces Ryu and Soke of Kuroshi Kaikan Martial Arts System, and president of the Family of Sanuces organization, Soki Haisan Khalik, and his co-host, Shihan Farouk Gibbs. All of these shows can be linked to online by typing in docradio.net or listening live at the scheduled time by dialing 646-716-6825. DocRadio.net is also proud to present DocMagazine.net, the world's largest martial art magazine dedicated to Dr. Moses Powell, Sanuces Ryu Eye-to-Eye Jiu-Jitsu, Urban Tactical Street Self-Defense, and Streetology. Please join our Facebook group by typing in docradio.net and follow us on Twitter by typing docradio.net. Thank you for your support, and in the words of Doc, eye to eye, heart to heart, to the wall and back, os.
Welcome on the Mac. This is Fulkan Shabazz Major Habib. My co-host and my sensei, Shihan Salah Habib, Jabbar, will be joining me shortly. And as well as our guests, we have a pretty unique guest tonight. Her name is Miss Arlette Pender. She was a student of Dr. Moses Powell in the 70s at the Atlantic Avenue Dojo. And before I continue, let me just greet my co-host, Shihan Salah Habib. Shihan?
Yes, sir. How are you?
Yes. Yes, I was just introducing the world to our guest. I'm going to bring her in a minute. I see she gets logged in. But before I bring her in, I'll just introduce her. Her name is Miss Arlette Pender. Well, first of all, she's an international hairstylist. I mean, she does all the celebrities. I don't want to say a clientele, but she's pretty big. She's also featured in a lot of major magazines. But before she got to that level in life, when she was a younger girl in Brooklyn, she trained under Dr. Moses Powell, and she made it as far as brown belt. And Dr. Powell was actually really good friend of her father, really good friend of her family. And I'm going to now bring her. But before I bring her in, how you doing, Shihan?
Very good, Shabazz. Great, as a matter of fact.
Okay, let me just now bring in Miss Pender. Good afternoon, Arlette.
Good afternoon, Fulkan Shabazz. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Okay, so let me know who else is there with you.
Shihan.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, this is Salahuddin. How you doing, Miss Pender?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. And it's a pleasure talking with you.
Hey,
all right.
Arlette, I'm gonna just jump right into it. Let me just ask you, how did you know Dr. Moses Powell? Tell me a little bit about their history.
Okay, so Dr. Powell, well, I know him as Uncle Mo. Him and my dad grew up together in Brooklyn on Madison Avenue. They became great friends, and so I was born into his existence. It wasn't introduced to him or anything. He was just my uncle from the time of birth. So I met him in my younger years. My experience with him is a family experience with him, I just want to say. And the things that I do have to say tonight are based on what I know about him and from a family perspective. And then his career into a business, then I'm going to kind of put a business perspective in there as in defense of my uncle. No, I did not become a master or a great martial artist, but, yeah, he was, Before he was a great martial artist, he was a man, and he was a family man. And a lot of that gets erased in the memory of my uncle, who I really like to call him Sensei. I think a lot of that gets lost. Most that gets spoken about him is that he's a master martial artist in jiu-jitsu, So that's how I know him.
Let me ask you, why do you call him your uncle?
I call him my uncle because it's respect. He was a great friend of my father's. That's what we know. We know that before we call anybody who is a great friend of your family member or your parent, call them by their name or, just that's foul. That's your uncle. He has influence on your life, and he's able to give you, reprimand you. He's able to give you advice. He's able to teach you, train you. If you're in the street doing something that you had no business doing, and he was around, he was able to rectify that. So he is my uncle. Anybody could take that from me. He's not my blood uncle, but he's my uncle.
So let me ask. So when he used to come to your house to eat dinner, with your family, what was that like? Like, what was his personality like?
He was a man of very few words. He was a boisterous person. He was straight to the point. What he said, if it was funny, he'd laugh. If it wasn't funny, he wouldn't laugh. So he was very straight to the point. He was not loud, rowdy. He was not any of that. He was a man of great size and stature, but very humble. So when he was in my house, it was just, his presence was just so large. Anywhere he went, his presence was large. I'm sure that anybody could, who was around him, would agree that whenever he was there around, his presence was large. But he was as quiet as his body on the mat. You wouldn't even hear him on the mat. All you would hear was his clothes, his gi. You wouldn't even hear him. You wouldn't hear him walk. You wouldn't hear him talk. It was just straight to the point. So that's what that was like.
Now, when you studied with him, what years did you study with him? It was in the 70s. It was in the 70s on Atlantic Avenue after he took the dojo over from his master V. Professor V had the dojo on Atlantic Avenue, and since they took over the dojo, my dad happens to be an architectural engineer. My dad designed the inside of the dojo with the arch of the masjid. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So if anybody remembers that, they'll know that I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So that's when we studied, my brother, myself, and my cousin, and my dad, of course. Now, I remember you were telling me that your father had helped design the original. No, my dad didn't help design it. My dad did design it. He didn't help design it. He designed the first patch. It had a panther on it. And that was the one when it was called Self-Defense Complete. That's right. Now, tell me about that.
Well, I don't know much about it. You know, I can't tell you a whole lot of stuff. You got to remember, this is memory from when I was a little girl. So this is not memory like I was a teenager and I was all into it. This is memory from, like, he was my uncle, and it was everyday life to me. It wasn't anything special, you know. It was like my dad designs a lot of things. My dad designed the doors of the masjid out in Scottsdale, Arizona. They like 10 feet tall. You know, that's what, you know, when you live a life with someone, they're not as special as, you know, what they do is not as profound as what other people think it is. You know, this was just my story. It's my life. It's what I know, you know. So I really can't tell you the particulars about it. I remember seeing the patch floating around. I remember my dad had the patch on his gi. I remember Sensei had the patch on his gi. I don't remember them going out to schools or working out because I was a kid. I stayed home. So by the time I studied under Sensei, the patch that you guys see now is the patch that was on my, with Sanuces rule.
You know, it's so interesting that you did that patch because I had interviewed Dr. Powell's last, you know, basically his last significant other was Gina Powell. And in that interview, I told her, I said, one of the things, there's only one thing I would really wanted, like, I wish I could, like, sort of an artifact. I said, I wish I could have a patch of that original self-defense complete patch. And it's funny that your dad, all the time I knew you, I didn't even know your father designed that patch.
Yeah, my dad. In fact, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know he designed it. I knew that it was around, but I didn't know he designed it until, when was it? I was Thursday last week. We were at dinner here, and we were talking about it, and I was like, Dad, you remember what happened to the patch? You remember the patch with the panther on it? And he was, did you know I designed that patch? And I was like, what? You know, so it was just, that's what I'm saying. Some of this stuff is just out of memory from my life. You know, like this is a part of where I live. This is not anything that I was introduced to at a certain point. So part of this that I'm remembering, it may not be chronologically correct, but it is in fact correct. You know, so yeah, that isn't that interesting. You don't even know who your parents are sometimes or what your parents did, because back in those days nobody bragged. Like nowadays everybody is talking and boasting about who they know and what they do and everything. Back in those days that wasn't so. You know, there was a lot of humility. And that's one of the things that we learned from Sensei was, you know, nobody needs to know what you know. You know, you be humble. And you walk the street, you just don't let nobody mess with you. That's all. You don't have to tell anybody I'm a brown belt and I studied under Moses Powell, and we didn't do that. When I met you, Fuquan, in Salon, and you said something about Moses Powell, I was like, oh, that's my uncle, right? Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And it wasn't like anything more than, oh, that's my uncle. You know, I grew up knowing. That's right. Grew up with him in my living room. I grew up with him at my table, you know. The World's Fair, we went to the World's Fair with his patent one-finger rollout. You just, you know, to see, that's like a freak of nature to see him at sides rolling out on his finger and his finger's not broken. You know, we were like, wow. You know, make no sound.
Not to deviate a little bit, but Grandmaster Gina Ferrano, I said that he had like a waiting list of like 300 people waiting to learn from him. What was that fair like when you went to that fair? I mean, just kind of like what was that experience like that day at that event?
Well, to us it was fun. To us, we were going to see him perform. We didn't know all of that stuff. You know, we didn't know. And like I said, he was a humble man. Like, he didn't brag about there was 300 people waiting for him to learn, waiting to learn under him. That's not the person I don't know. I'm going to tell you, from the time I was a little kid to the time I studied under him till the time I became a teenager, he was never a person that I would say was very boastful. Like, we didn't know that he was the great You know, we didn't. This is just not something that we knew. He was a man, a family man. We went to the pink houses where he lived with his wife Betty and his two daughters, Tina and Cheryl. We played with them. You know, he came home. He was a man.
He lived in Pink House in East New York?
He lived in pink houses in East New York, across the street from TSF. Yes, it was a store, Times Square store.
I never knew that.
That's right.
I never knew that.
That's right.
All right, let me ask you this. All right. All right. The next question. What would you like to see happen in his name?
Well, honestly, you know, if I YouTube him, if I Google him, if we sometimes my dad and myself will get together and we'll talk about old jazz singers and I know how sensitive my dad is about his friend. So I'll say, Dad, let's look at Sensei. You know, he's like, you can look at Sensei. You know, we press the button and we see him. But we'll see, like, when you do a YouTube search or something and you see a video on the sidelines, you would see videos of other people, like spin-offs or other people who have tagged into whatever the martial arts, the jiu-jitsu, Moses Powell, and I would see schools. And I would see all these schools pop up. I remember when Sensei went to Florida and this popped up, and, you know, it was like supply and demand. And then everybody demanded a lot from him, you know, from something that was, I think, in my opinion, he suffered for his passion. That's what passion is, suffering for. So I think he suffered for his passion. I think people didn't really know that, you know, with something that comes so easy to a man, then it becomes a business, and then it becomes something that people want, and then they hunger for it, and they don't take the man as a man anymore. They take the man as what the man could give, and that's just my opinion. You know, I mean, he gave a lot. I see a lot of that. I remember when we were on Atlantic Avenue and coming to school with our gis on our back, because we couldn't put our gis in a bag. He wouldn't allow that. When we came into the dojo, our gis had to be on our back because the belt had to be tied correctly, and he wanted to make sure the belt was tied correctly. And if we were early, we would stand outside the dojo and we would talk to him or whatever, you know, and people would point over. But I remember him being a person that would take the kids off the street and bringing them into the dojo and getting them off the street. And a lot of the times back then, it was a way to give a self-worth to a lot of men, young men who were in the street and they were, like, ill-directed. And he was that kind of a person. That's what, you know. So right now I see a lot of schools, but I don't see a foundation. I don't see an organization. I don't see anything that says, I hear people, I love Doc Musa. I love the Master. I love, you know, depending on what time they knew him and what time that he was, from the time that he was Moses Powell to the time that he was Musei, to the time that he was Sensei, to the time that he was Master, to the time that he was Grandmaster, or whatever the chain of names. People will say certain things about him, but there's kids out there in the street that's using guns for self-defense. You know, and they don't even have to use guns for self-defense. They can get somebody could get a hold of them through his name. His name is great. Like, his name is worldwide known. He's world renowned. You know, it's not a game. You know, and you know, I hear dojos coming up and schools coming up, and that's great. You know, but I don't see the not-for-profit out in the street, you know, trying to help the young kids who want to be karate experts or senseis or so that's what I'd like to see happen. I would like to see some of the people who graduated under Sensei, who use Sanuces rule, Dr. Moses Powell on their videos, show him doing the one finger rollout, you know, showing him do his technique so effortlessly. I'm going to say it again, effortlessly. Like anybody who studied under him, they know that he did that effortlessly. I'd like to see somebody come up and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to start this. I'm going to give scholarships to kids to come into my dojo or to come in help them become something great. As opposed to what I hear. And I'm not talking about everybody. I don't know what experience people had with him. As I said, I wasn't one that was holding the light when people were learning from Sensei. But, yeah, I think they use his name, and his name is in vain. That's what I think. So I'd like to see something else happen with his name. I think he suffered for his passion. I think he had a passion, and I think other people are getting more out of his name than he actually did himself because he gave so much.
Arlette, do you know who was one of those famous kids Dr. Powell helped get off the street? Who's famous now?
No, I don't.
Reverend Al Sharpton.
Boy, I remember Sharpton.
Yeah, Reverend Al Sharpton to tell you. Yeah, Dr. Powell, Shaw was a bad little kid running around Brownsville. And
he Dr. sure Powell was.
And Dr. Powell got
sure
him off the street.
Yeah, I mean, there's CIA agents that learned under my uncle. You know what I'm saying? He taught the CIA self-defense. It's not a game. Like, he's, I don't know how much people really, really know. Like, he is, I say he's the prophet of martial arts. He's a prophet.
All right, let me go to this next question. What did your uncle expect from his students?
He did expect, excellence. He expected discipline, and he expected humility. When we studied under him, we were not allowed to go to school to say that we were studying martial arts. We were not allowed to brag. We were not allowed to brag. We were not allowed to come to the dojo before we did our homework. We could not get on the mat if our homework wasn't done.
Wow.
That's right. Wow. And my father used to be right in the dojo, and my homework wasn't done, and he wasn't letting me on the mat. It was just like, all right, my father really had no control once we were in his care. And he just didn't play. It was straight to the point. I know him as a man. That's what I keep emphasizing that. As a father, as a man, that someone about children, someone who cared about. I think, in my opinion, did in martial arts was like what I do in hairstyling. I was born to do it. It was a gift. So anybody who teaches me anything I see, I can do it. And I can do it so well. At least that's what other people think. Thank you for my gift, the Most High. But that's what I think. And I think that when people have that, you ever hear people say, I don't know what my purpose is.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And I have to find my purpose. People around searching for their purpose, and their purpose is sometimes right before their face. He was able to know his purpose. Master V, I remember Master V walking on Atlantic Avenue. If you like a little meek man, like just don't even know that he is the greatest. He saw that in Sensei. So he was able to bring it out. And Sensei was. How do you know that
Mr. Professor V saw that in Doc? What makes you think that?
It's obvious. That's like what you see in me, what I see in you. Like what I see in you with what you do. There's nobody, when I want something, when I feel like I need to know something about technology, I'll call you. When you want to know something about it, you call me. When there's a connection between two people, it's obvious. Like, I know that. No one has to explain that to me. You know, I know that. For him to have taken on a sensei the way he has, that's obvious. You don't need an explanation for that. That's just one of those things that you have to explain. If you see pictures of sensei, you won't see too many of them without Master V in the background or around him, or you won't hear him talk too much without mentioning Master V. At least that's what I remember in the earlier days. I remember conversations in my house about him and Master V. Master V turned over his dojo to sensei.
What was their relationship like? What was Dr. Powell and Master V relationship like?
I imagine it was one of great respect, which is not even seen or heard of these days. You got to ask for respect. You got to beg for respect. You know, respect is just not something that just comes as normal. Everybody is a know-it-all nowadays, but back in those days, that's just what it was. It was very respectful. It wasn't anything that I see as being an outward relationship. Master V was very meek and humble. Sensei, put it this way, Sensei is the first Karate Kid.
Oh. So let me ask you this. So the way that Dr. Powell, I'm gonna use your language. The way that Sensei respected his teacher, Master V. Do you see in today, 2012? Do you see docs or do you see Sensei students giving him that respect the way he respected Master V?
Is you asking me my honest opinion? I
Yes.
don't think he's respected as no. No, I don't. I think, in the time of social media, in the time of this is 2011, like ready to be 2012. Everybody wants to be something. There's a lot of chiefs, but there's no Indians. Even in my industry, everybody wants to be on top. Like, you have to work your way up. So you have to hold someone in your trust. Like, you have to trust. There's no trust. I don't think so, no. I think that, like, even the value is broken down, but that's a whole nother show, But, no. What I saw and I didn't see a whole lot, but what I saw actually affected me. I couldn't imagine a little man flipping a man of Sensei's size at that time. Like, I couldn't imagine someone of that size and of so much power, of physical power, like just bowing to someone so small and meek. Like you would look at Master V and say, oh, man, he's a little Chinese man. In fact, back in those days, knowing Master V, we didn't mess with Chinese people because we didn't know who was who. We didn't mess with Asian men or anything of that. We didn't know because Master V will cut you out. Cut you down, step out of the way, and keep on walking. And that was one of the things that Sensei used to say to us, don't do no arguing. If somebody's bothering you and they yelling in your face, don't argue back. Just you wait. And you keep yourself ready for the first blow. You block, you hit the solar plexus, and you go. That was our instruction. You hit them in the chest, you hit the pressure points, you hit the solar plexus. That's what jiu-jitsu is about. So I don't know. This is my humble beginnings. I don't know. No, I don't see the respect. No.
You know what? I'm gonna rename this show the Bushido of Doc. Because it's almost like Allah's talking to me through you. You know what I mean? Like, it's like all this week I've been on this whole thing about this shit. I've been talking to Sensei about this. And a lot of things that you're talking about is really like virtues. And that's what you're describing. You're describing virtues.
I'm going to say, when I was younger, young teens, You know, after my teenage years, of course, I wanted to go ahead and do what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be a martial artist. You know, one of the baddest female martial artists in his dojo, Alberta. I don't know if anybody knows Alberta, but if you know her, she was the baddest thing. Little black lady, she was the baddest chick in the dojo. And we trained with Lil John, Alberta, Brother Leslie, and, of course, my dad. There was Robert, I don't remember his last name, but that is if people know Atlantic Avenue, Sanuces Rue, they would know Alberta. And I admired her, but when I got to my teenage, I wanted to do something else. So as his career progressed and he went to Florida and then it kind of blew up and the whole, everybody tagged on. And I'm not saying people, the good people got what they needed from Sensei and the bad people got what they needed from Sensei, and people got what they needed, and everybody got a piece of what they got a piece of, So he did touch a lot of souls in different ways. He has... people have internalized him and what he did in his art, martial art, in different ways. Some of it for self-pleasure, some of it for, help, some of it for finance, some of it. But do I think he got the best of the deal? Mm-mm. And I think how he gets the best of the deal, somebody just give him, and I can do it. I'm not saying no, but I'm saying who are talking about him and who are have opening schools about him, who have trained under him, and who have said that they know him and that he has sent them some kind of message and some kind of something to do, then, maybe get together and make a foundation. Maybe get together and help some young kids.
Let me play devil's advocate. What if someone take on the mindset, okay, I learned the art, I got the art, he's not around no more, he's passed away 6 years now, I'm going to just do my own thing, you know what I mean? There ain't nobody else, everybody else doing it, you know what I'm saying? And in my own right, I should be the man or whatever. Like, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
Well, okay, everybody can be the man, but there's nothing wrong with being the man, but if you shouting you the man, then there's no humility. If somebody else is shouting your greatness, and you saying, I learned that. I learned that from being in Brooklyn and people looking at my hairstyles and saying, hey, Arlette did your hair, Freddie, Fuquan, I'm sorry. I used to be everywhere. People knew me. I was in videos doing hair and celebrities was flying me out. And I became, to myself, the best hair dryer. I'm self-proclaimed the best hairstylist. Right? So when you self-proclaim and you don't pay homage to you have a gift, you have a talent, or that you were taught or you learned someone else, or you have no humility, it comes and goes. You can be the best to yourself, but if nobody else thinks you're the best, what makes no sense. It doesn't even matter.
But that's a pretty interesting point, because as powerful and as good as Dr. Paul was, he always remembered Professor V.
Well, I don't ever think I don't know. In my life experience with him, the time I knew him, I never heard him say that he was great. I asked my dad if he ever said that. I'm gonna ask my dad if he ever said that. I doubt it, because he always walked in humility. That's what I learned from him. That's what I have now. You can say what you want to say about me. I'm like, okay. But when somebody else thinks you're great, that's different than you thinking you're great. So you could be the man, Yeah.
What other instructors do you remember? You touched on it, but now really touched on it. What other instructors do you remember from Atlantic Avenue Dojo?
The one that I know that used to train us when Sensei wasn't around was Brother Leslie. he trained us a lot, you know. But my dad trained with Little John, and you know, they all came in the dojo and stuff, but they weren't aside from that Alberta. Boy, that Alberta was bad. But anyway, Leslie usually trained us. And Leslie was a big guy as well.
And Leslie and Little John, so what was, because you know you hear a lot about Little John. I mean, what was his reputation like back in those days?
Oh, Little John bad. Little John bad and fast. Little John bad and fast. No, Little John ain't to be put. No. Little John nice. Yeah, with an ICE. Yeah. Yeah. He was fast. I remember him being very swift. I remember Alberta being very swift and can jump very high and can kick very high. Like, I don't know. That's how I know if people know if they know Sensei and who trained under him. Like, if they know Alberta, that's my test. And I don't even know where she is. I asked my dad.
You said, and I don't want some of these questions to start to sound rhetorical, but I'm going to kind of flip it up a little bit. So my next question is, do you think your uncle gets the respect that he deserves? Now, with this one, I want you to talk about, you tell me a little about it when he did a seminar in Arizona and how he was a little disappointed in it. Tell me about that story.
Well, I mean, as a matter of fact, they just before he passed, I remember my dad telling me that Sensei was out here, and so he went. He didn't tell him. He didn't call him, and he didn't tell him that he would to see him. So my dad went to the venue where they had asked him. In fact, he was supposed to have been held in some honor, and some school had opened up, or someone said they trained under him, and I don't know the particulars. But I know the one thing that affected my dad was that when he was there, they fed him sandwiches. You know, and you eat him sandwiches. I don't know if you've ever been out to Arizona or Scottsdale. Like, there's restaurants. Like, Scottsdale is one of the richest cities in Arizona. Like, you feed him sandwiches. Like, really, you bring him out to watch it. So it kind of killed my dad's spirit. So my dad actually did go up to him and took him out to dinner. You know, and that was one of the last meetings they had before he passed. And the year that he passed, I moved out here. So when I moved out here, I didn't even notice since they passed, because my dad was kind of really, really hurt, and he's still sensitive about it. And I asked him, I said, so Dad, you hear from Sensei, you know? And he was like, Arlette, he passed in January. And I was like, what? And, you know, so sometimes we just reminisce a little bit, and there's times my father doesn't even want to talk about it, but he thought that it was a degree of disrespect. And I think he really gets the respect. No, I think Sensei was kind of, I don't know, I'm going to go there. I think I made this analogy before about the miracles of Jesus. Like Jesus walked and nobody really believed he was who he was, you know, and so they toyed with him a bit. I think, yeah, that's what happened. So to answer that question, I don't think so. I think that a lot of people wanted a lot more from him than they. I think the respect of Sensei comes from what he did, what he performed, what he put out, what people learned from him. And as a teacher, I think his students respected him as a teacher, yeah, I do. But I don't hear any, I don't know, that's all I hear. That's all I hear is like a verbiage of, yeah, I taught under Dr. Moses Powell, you know, and Doc this and Doc that, but I don't really hear any sincerity. I don't know. And I may be wrong. So I'm not saying that this is actual fact. I'm saying from my point of view. So I don't want anybody calling me or saying anything. This is my point of view, and I'm asking these questions from what I know. So I'm answering them from what I know. So I don't know. If you did respect him, then that's really, really good, honestly and wholeheartedly. When he was alive and you knew him, if you respect his memory, that's fine, you know. But did you know Moses Powell? Like, did you know him? Is my question. Not no Sensei, Doc, Muse, you know. Not no Master Red Belt. You gotta understand. Like, I know Sensei from the time he was brown, like green belt, brown belt. You know, I remember him going up to the degrees, 7th degree black belt. So I knew him before he had his red belt. I knew him. He was a master, you know. So I don't know.
So even when he had his brown belt, and even when he was low in those ranks, he was still exceptional.
You talk about something hot. Yeah. Mhm.
So to think of Doc is to kind of think of like a Michael Jordan or a Michael Jackson, like a prodigy.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
you have any questions?
Him. Just watch him.
Yeah.
Just watch him. That don't come. That what you see is that's not. He doesn't put any thought behind that. Do you see? Have you ever watched him and he was doing his technique and he was laughing as he was doing it? Ha ha ha! Cut his throat, you know, and take out his guts and pull his eyeballs out. You know what? Pop the eardrums. You know, move to the side. I mean, yeah. Prodigy. Mhm.
You said his stomach. You said it wasn't a fat stomach. You said it was all muscle.
No, we used to punch it. It was all hard. Yeah. As my stepmother said, his abdomen. Yeah, it was like a basketball hard. No, he was fully he was solid muscle. There's no fat. Look, my dad, he's younger than my dad. My dad is in his 70s. My dad has 0% fat. My dad is an Aikido instructor. And my dad is 70-something years old, and you cannot touch him at all. He will lead you by your hand. You will do anything. You would submit to my dad by his wrist. He will hold your wrist, and you will submit. And people always come up to him because they think he's an old man with a gray beard. And people, you know, my dad's Muslim. My dad is out here, and he goes to the masjid, and the brothers, they all run up to him because they think he's an old man, but you can't mess with him. That era, there's nothing like that walking on this earth right now. Like, if you ever want to want some wisdom or something like that, you have to seek an old man. An old man. Go to an old man. Don't go to nobody in their 60s. Like, go a little deeper. Find somebody a little deeper where respect was valued. And they're not, like my dad says now, he's not digital, he's analog. I think that's deep because everything is digital now. You press a button, you remember the Jetsons and like that. My dad, he's a woodworker, and he builds furniture, and he designs it. He's a draftsman, and he designs it, and he buys the wood, and he puts the wood together, and the wood cannot be broken. You can't even find things nowadays that last like they used to last. That's analog. Digital is right now. So when you go to seek something from somebody who's got some wisdom and a little bit older, and that's going to be honest with you, and you know, and just have your own mindset. And I don't know, today is really hard for me, you know, to deal with people So I kind of just not stay by myself, but okay, yeah, all right, kind of sit and read folks and see what they about, and don't let everybody in your world. And that's how Sensei originally was. I don't know what happened when he went to Florida. When he went to Florida, it was a whole different thing.
What was this between the Florida Sensei and the New York Sensei? From your
more celebrity. More celebrity,
Do you think when he went to Florida, he lost touch with his own virtues? Like, in other words, his own humility.
I don't think he ever lost touch with it. I think that people started reminding him. Like when you hear something so much, you start believing.
So he started believing the hype. He started believing.
Well, that's what I think. Like I said, when he moved to Florida, there was a disconnect. We didn't have a lot of communication with him. All I knew that when what would be said now is that he blew up. Because a whole lot of stuff started happening. Like, there wasn't a lot of dojos that opened up while he was in New York. There wasn't, like, dojos opening up anywhere, but when he went to Florida, there was more hype and more exposure. And, I mean, from a business standpoint, when you take your gift and you take it to a business level, mainly that's what you want. But you still have to manage it, you have to have people around you can trust. I don't know if that is exactly what happened. I'm just saying, I don't know, but that's the feel I got. Like, okay, so Moses Powell is big now. He blew up, and he wasn't just Sensei in the dojo on Atlantic Avenue, or who went around and taught people and just. He was big while he was here as well, but I don't know. That's my opinion. I think the Florida thing.
But Florida's where he really kind of went. He just, because then he started going to the Caribbean. He just propelled him, like he,
Yeah.
It's almost like Obama, like next year when Obama's getting ready to run for president, they're gonna turn on the Obama machine. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, how you're going to see political campaigns all over the place, and you're going to like whatever you thought about Obama, once he starts speaking and once he starts doing commercials and all that, you're going to just fall in love with this dude all over again. So my thing is, like, do you think there was a machine? Like, do you think some machine came behind Doc and, like, there was like a machine? Like,
I think they made him a machine. I think they made him a machine because if you have so many dojos and they're opening up in your name, then you have to visit them. Like, you have to go there and train. Like, you have to do that. You supply and demand. I can't have salons open up and just in my name and I never visit them. I can't have, like, that's just like when I go and do my I love your hair tours, people want me to do their hair. So if you do a lot, then you do become a machine. But then it depends on if you have investors. If people are trying to hype you up, then it becomes that kind of a business. I'm not sure of that, but that's just what I got out of it. And I think he became in more demand, and more people wanted more from him. So he really couldn't be the Moses Powell he was. He had to be Doc. He had to be Master Moses. Like, he was forced to really live that role. He couldn't retreat. See, when he was in New York, he could retreat.
But that's dangerous because like a lot of people when they get, like, even like Michael Jackson, a lot of these great people, when the machine comes behind you, pressure could bust pipes. You could crack.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, you could, I mean, yeah. Mm-hmm. I could. That's sitting there, he could too.
So the question is this then: How do you when the machine comes, right? Because my sensei, that's on the other phone, he's a phenomenal martial artist. You're a phenomenal hairstylist. You're the best I've ever seen. So let's say you take you two guys, or not even you two guys. Let's just say you take A and B. You're very talented at what you do. At some point, the machine is going to come. You don't know when the machine is going to come, but it's just going to come. When the machine comes, what do you do so that you don't, you know what I mean, so you don't crack or you lose touch with that humility?
You take assessment. You take assessment of what is reality and what is not reality. What can you actually, how much of this can you actually handle? Because there's no one person that can handle it all. So you take an assessment, and then you get honest enough with yourself to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Here comes this machine, but I'm not going to let this machine turn me into a machine. So if there's 5 salons in my case, if 5 salons if I could open up 5 salons, I honestly, sounds good, but can I honestly manage 5 salons? Nah. But you know what I could do? I could manage 2 efficiently. I could open up. I could keep my doors open. And if this is my blessing, and I keep these 2 working efficiently, then I may be able to get a 3rd one. But I'm not going to jump my gun because it looks so pretty. Because all the pictures that look pretty, you know, the painter is usually going through a whole lot of crap while he's painting this beautiful picture. Really doesn't get the reward or the praise for it until after he's dead. That's when his picture becomes valuable. So if you're chasing a dream and the dream of being successful, and if you're chasing the dream of being successful and you take that dream and you say you measure the success by the amount of money you have, you can make a lot of money, but will you have a lot of peace? So I'm successful because I'm peaceful. Period. Like if today or tomorrow comes, I don't have a lot of money, but if today or tomorrow comes, I know that my children are cool and I'm peaceful. You know, will I have people always ask, let me invest in you? No, thank you. Nah, that's okay. Sure. You know, I will mentor. Yes, I will mentor, and I will bring in underprivileged girls, and I will teach them the trade of hairstyling and to become a good hairstylist and to become a good businesswoman and to give customer service so that they can go out and they could be the future. But I won't let no one else come in and dictate, hey, you know you can have 100 salons across the country because they all going to have hair locks by Arlette. Arlette is my name. So that means if my name is on something, that means I am responsible for it, and they ain't going to blame nobody but me. No, thank you. I'll take 2 efficiently before I'll take 5. So that's when the machine comes, then you have to assess yourself because the machine is going to come, and the machine, if you remember, a machine is mechanical. You're human.
Yeah, the machine don't never stop. The demand never stops.
The what?
The machine never stops. It's continuous.
Yeah, it continues, but can you handle that, though? You got to be realistic with yourself, though, because can you handle that? Honestly. You know, that's just like me being here. I came here and I opened my salon in Scottsdale. I do natural hair. Black people told me that I couldn't open my salon in Scottsdale. I wouldn't be able to stay open. I'm 6 years in business. Slow and steady. You know, there's girls, they open up beautiful salons, 5 chairs. I opened up my salon with 1 chair. Freddie, you know I will work. I am a machine. I will work. And I'm going to crank some heads out. But you know what? I'm not going to do more than I can. So I'm not going to get a salon with 5 chairs and I don't know anybody and have to deal with 5 personalities and manage a salon of 5 chairs, 5 personalities in a place I don't even know the demographic. That makes no sense. So I'm here, and I had 1 salon, and I was able to expand in a recession, thank God. See, if you can expand in the recession, then that means you're thinking with your head, not with your pocket. Because I could have came here and opened up a salon and didn't have no butts to fill the chairs. That wouldn't have helped me at all. I would have been struggling. I wouldn't have had no people. So, yes, when the machine comes, you got to assess yourself. Say, is this going to become bigger than me, or can I manage this? So slow and steady. You said that I'm known. I'm in national magazines. I don't have no big salon. I don't have no big salon.
Yeah, I saw you in Essence Magazine.
Have you ever seen me in a big salon?
No, but she was always the best. She dealt with the best.
Well, I'm okay. I've been blessed. They're going to say humility. You better keep it on. But I'm just saying, like, the bigger doesn't always mean the better. When you are humble and you know that you are giving your best and you are doing your best and that you can maintain whatever it is that you have before you, you got everything else beat. So if you have a small dojo, have a small dojo. And if the opportunity becomes where you could get a bigger dojo, you get a bigger dojo, but make the assessment. Is it too big? What about my light bill? What about my water bill? What about, can people pay for this? Because if you go up, your prices have to go up. You expand, So you have to be realistic, And in those times, it was easy to do a lot, when we went back in those days, it was nothing like it is now. I mean, the dreams were big. Dreams were huge. When you have a name like Moses Powell, you figure, hey, I could do this,
I have a question.
Sure.
What type of vacuum, in your opinion, what type of vacuum when I use your term, since they left New York, what type of vacuum did it create with the New York martial arts as a whole? And I know you were there up to brown belt, but just as a whole, because I know your father, you said, is highly skilled in Aikido. Do you remember any conversations or anything that happened after Doc left New York, after Sensei Moses Powell left New York? The vacuum.
Well, what happened was Leslie opened up a dojo. Robert opened up a dojo. I think Robert opened up his dojo before Sensei left, if I'm not mistaken. I might not be right. But, everybody went off and opened up their own dojo. But Leslie's dojo was still Sanuces rule. I don't think Robert's dojo was Sanuces rule.
Are you talking about Robert Crosshead?
Yes.
Okay, so he went. So he created something, I think it was called Sugar Rule or something like that.
Sugar. That's right. Yep, sugar. Yeah.
So what was Sugar like in Atlantic Avenue? What was he like in the dojo?
Oh, nice. They are nice. When you see my mentees, they're going to be good. They're going to be nice. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to be a force to reckon with, because that's who I am. I am a precise person. I know what I'm doing. It's effortless to me. I want to give my trade to somebody else, and if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it to the fullest potential, to my fullest potential. That's who Sensei was. He didn't half-step with these people. He knew that's what he gave. That's how it was. It wasn't, I'm not going to teach him this and I'm going to hold back. Nah, no hold back. It was in him. It poured out of him. He gave it. So these guys were bad. There's no doubt.
So building off what Shihan just said, so when Doc left New York, he go to Florida. These guys go off. These soon to be these great masters. They go off and create their own schools. Was there a vacuum? I mean, was there like the Sanuces kind of like at a standstill?
Yep. In New York, yeah.
So describe that. What was something like build on that? Like, what was, like,
I can't build on it because now I'm in my own life. You know what I'm saying? I ain't even interested in no jiu-jitsu or nothing like that. Now I'm having children and I'm partying. You know what I'm saying? I ain't thinking about it. But I know, like I tell people now, though, one person came up to me and said, people like to say stuff out of their mouth and say, yeah, I don't want to have to break your legs, you know, but that would never happen. You would have to shoot me. I said, because my father made sure that I was well trained, and the only thing he didn't teach me how to do was dodge a bullet. So you won't break my legs. Like I do. I don't care how much, how far, how old I get or whatever. That training that I got in the 70s, it will never leave me. It will never leave me. So yeah, but I can't tell you because, no, I don't have no gi or no belt or no nothing no more. The only time that it develops in me or is if I speak to you. Most of the time, if I'm on Facebook and I see Sensei, a picture of him, you know, and it's like a flashback. Oh, man, dang. You know, one thing about Fuquan is that he is, you know, he loves Sensei, you know, and then I'll start remembering, like, little memories, or if I'm talking to my dad, I start remembering little memories. But am I into the martial arts? No. So around that time, you know, I'm grown now. Sure, I ain't got no time to worry about what he's doing. He was already doing his thing. But now Cheryl and Tina, we're all grown up, you know. And it's like, how's your dad? He all right. You know, so it's like, you know, so you could tell that things have changed, you know, in a whole lot of structure, you know. When you get big, you look at Michael Jackson. When you ask people how, you know, they be like, well, I don't know how my brother is, you know. I hope he's okay. You know, he's fine. They had no idea what he was doing, really. You know, so that's. I think that's what happened. I think he. But thank God, you know, his name still rings bells. His technique is still the same. That's why I'm saying that there's got to be something else that could come from his name. Around Sanuces rule would if let's say if you guys don't open up dojos Sanuces rule or your children don't open up dojos Sanuces rule, what happened? So if there's no foundation to keep things going on, then, you know, after a while it'll be like, yeah, I remember him. Yeah, you know, and it'll be those guys who are great or who feel like they're great, and then they'll be the ones. And it's a little bit like what Nicki Minaj and Lil' Kim going through, you know. You forget that I'm really the queen bee, you know. So you gotta, there's always have to be something that keeps things lingering on, or else they eventually die out. And it'll evolve into something else.
Well, we got it. Well, luckily, within the last few years, all of the great masters of doctors, all his students, law ones, they put together the USFA, which stands for United Federation of United Family of Sanuces Association.
United Family Association.
Yep, and if you go to the USFA.org, you can see it. It's the federation, and there's over 52 members now part of this federation. And we have an executive board. We also have a board of directors, and it's moving in a pretty good direction. Just recently, they had a show out in Manhattan dedicated to him, and I guess every year it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger, and it's dedicated to his memory.
Good. So, you know, one of the things you asked me, what did I learn from him? And what did I say?
It's the humility.
Huh?
The humility. That was one of the things you told me you learned from him.
Then that's what you keep in his name. You keep the humility. And, you know, the excellence and the
and give it back to the hood, to the kids in the street.
Yeah, the excellence, the discipline, because sometimes you just got to hold your guns. You know what I mean? And even in organizations as such, you know, you're going to have people who are opinionated. But if you go down to the root of who he was and what he stood for, you keep that and hold that dear, and then then it will always prosper. But if you listen to some people say, hey, you know what's going to happen, and everybody's going to want to be a chief. So if you keep the humility and you keep the disciplines and you work at excellence, then his name will, you know, Sanuces Rule and Moses Powell and Doc and Muse and Master and Sensei, all of those things would last forever, live forever, and do give back to the kids. You know, teach them the art of self-defense so they don't have to pick up any guns and kill each other.
So Arlette, so would you say it's safe to say that the highest virtue that, from your experience, that he would want me to take from him is humility?
Yeah. Could you imagine? Listen. Could you imagine if you saw him in the street, right?
Yeah.
And you looked at him and you said, he was just sitting there, and you said, this guy's big. You know what I'm saying? I probably could take him. You know, I'm going to rob him. You know, you talk about a machine. He will feel and sense you walk into him, and he will cut you down. You know, that'd be the best ass, behind beating you would ever get if he don't kill you. So you have somebody like that has to be humble, or else they'll be angry, and they know what they can do. And they just walk out and just, you know, anybody say anything off the side of their mouth to them, they get hurt. So you got to be humble. You got to be humble in your greatness. And if you know that you're great, then you got to be humble in it. If you know that you want to become great, then you got to be humble. I did the Women in Sports Foundation when I was in New York. You know, Layla Ali is the president of it, right? They asked me to come in and donate my time. I did this young girl's hair. She was a rhythmic gymnast. I had no idea how bad this girl is because she did not sit there and say, oh, yes, I'm the best in the country or whatever, you know, and, yes, I'm going. She didn't say a word. I came home and I looked her up, and I wish you could see her. She's posted on my page. This girl, her name is Alexis Page, like, amazing. So I'm just saying, when you're a force to reckon with, you have to be humble. So when you're doing great things, no matter what it is, if you're starting an association, if you're building websites, if you're going to open up a dojo, if you are hairstyling, if you destined to be great or do great things or just be a help to people, you have to be humble. So, yes, I want you to take that because that's what I have. That's what I have now, Freddie. I had to learn that. That's learned behavior. I just want to say that.
Arlette, I'm gonna just say this is one of my greatest interviews. Man, this is, you know, I'm gonna rename this show the Bushido Sanuces Rule. Yeah, humility.
Humility.
You don't have to talk. So many people can hear this.
You don't have to talk about what you are, who you do. You don't have to talk, but when it comes time, you just have to be there and you have to prove it. That's it.
You know, I got one last touch spot. I got one last touch spot. Let you go, man. You know, as great as Doc was, there is a lot of people out there that trained under him, and they reached high levels in life, and the machine has gotten behind them too. And now they're up in the clouds. You know, they're up there. The machine, you can't touch them. You know what I mean? They're like, you know, like where's Michael Jackson at? You know, the machine is behind them. You can't even get to them. And so when I try to call or reach out to some of these people that's in the clouds, you know, I don't get any playback. I don't get any feedback. Nobody takes time to talk to Fukan. Nobody takes time to respond to me, to try to come on the show and stuff like that. So when I look at that, how do you think Dr. Moses Powell would feel about that?
That wasn't his personality. And if I thought if he behaved like that, it would be something else going on. I think he always had time for people. Are you there?
Yeah,
yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you use Michael Jackson as an example, what happened to Michael Jackson? He self-destructed. So when you don't have time for the little people, the little people make you big too, You got to have time for the little people. You got to be able to, especially people who are trying to, Fuquan, honestly, I didn't even want to do this. But I know that you are sincere about Sensei. I know that because I've known you for a while. And we've had these conversations. And, I haven't always had extensively long conversations with you about it because he's really a really touchy subject, But, if I'm talking to you because of what I know, and I'm just talking to you not out of what I know on the grand scale of Moses Powell. I'm talking to you on the basic of Moses Powell. So if I'm willing to do that, then that I think it's sincere, and that I think that it will, if you keep humility in your heart and you keep it, you'll be fine. No matter what, somebody, they're too in the clouds, you don't need to talk to them anyway. There'll always be somebody. What God has for you, nobody could take. So as long as you when you stay on a steady path and you do what you have to do and you do it with a good heart, good mind, and good soul, it'll always prosper. Just take your time. Train your kids. If you guys get some young people involved, boy, it'll last forever. So that's all I have to say. Yeah.
Arlette, I want to thank
That's
you.
why
I say,
whenever you have some kind of greatness or you are part of some kind of greatness, you have to give back to the youth, because there's going to be one or two young people that could take it to the next level.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Arlette, I want to thank you so much on behalf of the Senjo Kai Dojo here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I just want to thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. Before I close this out, I'll ask my sensei, you have any closing remarks or questions?
No.
About who? Sensei?
No, not you. I'm asking my sensei, do you have any questions or closing remarks I want to say to you?
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you, Ms. Arlette Pender. I have never met you, but Fuquan has spoken about you highly. And you are absolutely correct when you say that Fuquan, who didn't spend a tremendous amount of time with Dr. Moses Powell, he has about as much love for Dr. Moses. He has more love for Sensei, Professor, Dr. Moses Powell than people that have been with Dr. Moses Powell. So he's always been a student and a fan of Dr. Moses Powell. And
he sure has.
He is.
Fuquan is passionate. He's very passionate, and I describe passion as suffering for. That's what passion is, suffering for.
Sometimes it gets a little too passionate, and I have to make him suffer in class.
But you suffer for it because just in that example where he said he's trying to reach out to people and they telling him, call in 3 months. You know what I'm saying? That's suffering for. That means you striving for some kind of information, like he wants some food, he wants some information, some experience. He's suffering for it because he has not actually dealt with him, but he has so much great respect. So it's like a passion. So it is a passion. So your passion is what you suffer for. So it's not.
Good. I was going to say it was good to hear somebody talk about Dr. Powell outside of the dojo, and the man. We know the legend and we know the myth and we know the story, but we don't know enough about the man. And I'm glad you shared that story with us.
Oh, well, anytime. If I remember anything else, I'll try and call in. I appreciate you guys.
Hey, Arlette, and before I let you go, I want you to just take the opportunity, like I promised you. I want you to tell them a little about your business, your contact information, what you do, and then I'm going to wrap this show up.
Hair Locks by Arlette, natural hair care salon Scottsdale, Arizona, New York City. Email hairlocks, HAIRLOKS @yahoo.com. Phone number 480-443-7755. You can find me in the Essence magazine this month, Hot Hair issue, the Going Natural story. What I do is natural hair, and I transition women from chemically treated hair to natural hair, locks, braids, twists, weaves, anything that was going to promote natural and healthy hair. That's me. Hairlocks by Arlette, HAIRLOKSBYARLETTE.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Arlette, I'm going to just, in tradition, you're going to say eye nutrition with us, so I'm going to end off by saying eye to eye, and we just say heart to heart. So when I say eye to eye, you say heart to heart, and then the show's going to end. Eye to eye.
Heart to heart.
Heart to heart, to the wall and back. Oof.
Oof.